Knicks fans. Yeah, that's right. I'm excited. It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. I feel like it's been nothing but really good vibes mixed with just a tinge of nervousness because this series is still not over. Got to win another game over the last 24 or so hours. I'm very happy to hear what my good friend and colleague has to say because, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, you were in the building, right?
I was in the building for game 3 and game 4.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay. I have not really come down off of the high yet. I don't want to come down because I feel like when I come down, I have to face reality of like, wait, they have to win another game and this could go poorly. Where are you at, having been in the building for what I think it is safe to say was the best weekend of Knicks basketball in a quarter century?
Yeah, that seems fair. That definitely seems fair. So game 3, listen to the show, Doug, good friend, he was very kind enough to invite me. Game 4, I had my season tickets. And, you know, it's like I was trying to compare and contrast which one was better, and I can't. They're just they're so good on their own. Like game 3, it was messy, absolute rock fight. And we were talking 17 points for each team in the first quarter. I thought, okay, it's first to 90, and the Cavs wound up not even getting to 80. So that was pretty cool. But just the way, the energy for the Garden, of course, the first playoff game that you've had since 2021. And that was, I loved the game 1, despite the outcome of the 2021 series, but it didn't fully capture everything going on because a lot of it was COVID focused. And this just felt like, you know, we're back into a normal rhythm for life. Yeah. So it's just different that way. And especially being 1-1, that was important. Crowd really brought it, thought it was fantastic. And it was a huge win. You know, you walk away feeling good. Game 4, I was more nervous, strictly because when I saw Scott Foster was going to be reffing and the record that the Cavs had with him, and I'm just thinking, like, wouldn't it be the most NBA thing to have him come in there? The Cavs win. It's 2-2. They try to get this to 7 as easily as they can. And so, it's some nervous energy, but I was excited nonetheless. And I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of Knicks games. I mean, obviously on TV, I've been able to go to a bunch of them as well. I have never been able to cheer as loudly as I have the last 2 games because I haven't really had that many opportunities to cheer that way. Yeah. And it was like that Brunson shot in the fourth quarter when it really felt like that was the dagger.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There was this sense of relief that I felt where I just, so many other fans too, but just stood up and screamed. And it was just like, this is actually happening. I'm actually seeing a playoff game that ends a win when it got far too close for comfort. So all in all, it was just an incredible experience. Fans really brought it. It was super loud in there. I was really proud of everyone who was there. Total home court advantage. Very few Cavs fans, which, makes sense to a degree. I could see other teams.
Do they travel well? I don't know.
Right. It didn't seem like they traveled super well. And tickets for those who are buying on secondary market, I mean, that's super prohibitive. It's expensive. All that being said, it was a really great feeling. Left game 4, walking through the park, people wearing Knicks gear. There's a guy with a dog that had a Knicks jersey on. You fist bump them. The whole city just feels alive. It's just different. And I was thinking about on my way back home where it's just like, so I'm a Yankees, Rangers, Knicks, Giants fan, and not in that order, but Yankees fans, I see them all the time. Like, I'm going to sound like a dick when I say this, but I mean it. Yankees fans are very accustomed to winning. They have not had a below 500 season in my lifetime. So it's kind of like that's the expectation. Wow. And then with the Rangers, they've had great seasons. Game 4 is going to be tonight against the Devils. Hopefully they win that. But they've made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. They've rebounded quickly. They've rebuilt well. The Giants, still a great football team. We've seen 2 Super Bowls from them. The Knicks, it just feels different. It feels like we're able to finally come out from our little holes in the ground. Like, is it safe? Are we able to actually have genuine hope and enjoy the moment? And it felt nice for a change. It felt nice to be a winner in this situation. And we'll see what the rest of the series and the playoffs hold. But in this one moment, it was so pure and I loved it.
That was awesome to hear you say that. I'm happy you brought up the point about the difference between this and the COVID playoff series, which it's weird how that's always going to be known, even though it was over, not over by that, you know what I mean? But there were a lot of fans there. Cause I wasn't in the building. Actually, no, I was in the building for Game 5, which was definitely a different feel from what I gathered from talking to you than Game 1 and Game 2. But I don't know, it was such a weird time in the country that that was more about, we were I'm in an arena with 15,000 other people, right? As opposed to I am watching a Knicks playoff basketball game. I mean, they were both in there. This was all about the Knicks, and I'm wondering, from you especially, because you're a lot younger than me. Did you feel like this was, even for people who weren't around, who have not been around for all of the 20 plus years, or you've been around for, but you haven't been a fan for that long because you were very young.
You're not as old as you think you are, and I'm not as young.
I'm very old.
No, you're not. You're 39 is not that old.
Okay, so you were
you'd be retired if you were a basketball player, unless you're
how old are you in 99?
99, I was 4 years old, so that I don't remember. Yes,
yeah, exactly.
If we're talking about yes, I was a fan starting 2002, 2003 seasons. Yes.
All right, so right when the losing started. So you know what? Maybe you're the wrong. No, maybe you're the wrong person to ask. I guess I'm just, the fact that it has been so long, I feel like it's not just fans were waiting to cheer and scream when Brunson hit that shot, when you're saying, but this is 20 years, regardless of your age. It's 20 years of waiting and yearning for something to cheer about exploding out at once. And I think it all came out this weekend. That's what it felt like from afar.
Yes, I'd say that's a really fair way to put it. It was a release. It was because I was molded by the darkness, right? So many fans who are a bit older than me still got to experience 99. Even if they were young, they were aware of it. For you, it started 93? That was
93, 94. Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, 93, 94.
But even still, you have those memories, those core memories. And I think for the people who came around my age and still loved the team in the aughts, and then there were the other fans who came about more in the mellow era that kind of sparked something new, that brought in a new group, the Chris Persianen age fans. And, people made fun of Bing Bong and fans going crazy after Game 2 in the 2021 series, all that. And it's just, I loved it. I love the fact that we can all just openly celebrate it and have fun with it. But yeah, for me, it was just this is what playoff basketball and winning feels like. Because again, I was at, I want to say Game 5 of the 2013 playoffs, right?
Yep.
With Boston. But at that point, it was, this team's supposed to be winning, and they lost that game. Yep. And then Game 6, as we talked about, felt like a relief, but not in a good sense, just in a I'm just glad we didn't blow a 3-0 lead and become the first NBA team to do that. And now it just felt all right, it's 1-1, stole home court advantage, absolutely destroyed them. Okay, it's 2-1, feel really good about this. And yet I can't help but wonder about the refereeing, about adjustments, about all these different factors. Grimes is out. How is Randall doing? Everything. And then to close the door in the way that they did, it was almost it was funny to see another team have the patented Knicks fake comeback. It's nice when the shoe's on the other foot, when the rabbits got the gun. So good. that was the part of it. But to go back to what you're saying, yes, it was very much kind of this might seem sad, but so much of my fandom has reached a peak. And I hope that is not the peak of my life. And for a lot of other fans, as they're watching it, I want to see that go much higher. But as we stand right now, this feels like a higher place than where we were certainly 2 years ago and where we were 10 years ago.
It does. And as you're talking about this, because we do this every week, and I'm in front of a camera way too much, but it makes it
just enough,
just the right amount.
Just the right amount.
It makes it, even as I think our job on here, specifically me and you, when we do our weekly pods, is to try to zoom out a little bit. I don't know that like, I would speak for myself. Mentally, before this series started, I was able to zoom out enough to really embrace how much, I don't know what I'm going to use the goalposts phrase again, but like how much the goalposts have changed over the course of this year. Where like this year started coming off of last season, and it was like, oh wow, it took a year, and we went back to being like viewed unfairly so because of all the things we talked about. But like we went back to being viewed as like kind of a clusterfuck of an organization, and like that stunk. And wouldn't it be nice to just not be that anymore? And then after 23 games, oh, guess what? We're still that, and for reasons. And like over the ensuing whatever it's been 4 months, right? It's only been 4.5 months. It's gone from that to like now we're sitting. I mean, again, we're sitting here. We're talking about like, oh, who are we facing in the next round potentially? You know, like it's just. It's wild, and I can't wrap my head around it right now. I think it'll probably take me some time after when the season's finally over. Of course, we're talking about this as if the series is over, which we should not be because the series is not over. We should say Knicks are up 3-1. They do have game 5 coming up, on Wednesday. Let's key in on that for a second, then we'll go back and we'll talk about some of the storylines briefly from the series. What are your thoughts about Wednesday? Because I have some very specific thoughts about it.
Why don't you go first?
Okay. I'm not going to say the ridiculously absurd thing, which is that it's a game that I really feel like they need to win because they have 3 chances to win a game. However, I do feel very strongly about this, which is that I suspect it may be the easiest game to win if we were to play out. And look, you never know how game 5 is going to play out. That is going to impact game 6. And you never know how game 6 is going to play out. That could impact game 7. I just feel like where both teams are at right now, and maybe I'm reading too much into it and it's a bad job by me to do this, but like looking at some of the Cavs and hearing some of the Cavs after the game 4 loss and how they were speaking about like the game and the series so far and the locker room after the game, just feeling very... I mean, it seems like a downtrodden team. It seems like a coach that's kind of grasping at straws right now. Making matchup adjustments to like preempt matchup adjustments that like didn't happen and like now didn't need to happen because of the adjustments that we're really into the weeds here with this. And then you have the Knicks who are feeling freaking great and have been a great road team all year and are saying all the right things coming off of game 4 about how like, their mental preparedness going into this game, the whole thing, they're playing pretty well, even though they're not playing well. And we could talk about that. That's a weird dichotomy, but like, you know what I mean by that, right? They're like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. This game is there for them to take, I think. And look, the Cavs could come out and Donovan Mitchell could score 50 points or something, and it could be a crazy game. But like, so I'm looking at that as opposed to like, it doesn't even matter how they lost. Just if they lost the game and it goes back to a game 6 at home, I'm sure the Knicks would be feeling good about it. But like, that's a situation where does it open the door for tightness to come in? It's like all of a sudden, like maybe you're not hitting your threes and the Cavs come out and they're feeling like they're playing with house money and they hit a bunch of threes and all of a sudden you're down by 15 points in the third quarter and you're looking around like, shit, are we going to have to go back to Cleveland for a game 7? Like, there's a trickle-down effect that I would like to very much avoid. And so that is where my mind is at after 4 games, Jeremy. You can make fun of me now.
No, I'm not going to make fun of you. I've had similar thoughts, but not the same. So okay. I would agree with you that the Cavs are in a vulnerable position. Before you even said the word downtrodden, the word that came to my mind was the Cavs are downtrodden. When you see Jared Allen saying he thought they played a pretty good defensive game and then looks at the box score and then quietly murmurs, maybe not. That is a team that is certainly feeling it. They're a younger team. I mean, the Knicks still are a young team too, but I feel better with Jalen Brunson at the helm than I would if I were a Cavs fan with Donovan Mitchell, even if it's reversed. I've also seen enough Rangers comebacks from down 3-1 to know that this is far from over. Different sport. I get it. I think it's probably easier to come back. It's definitely easier to come back in hockey than it is basketball.
The numbers say so.
Right. So that's a different story. But even still, I haven't gotten quite to the point of, okay, you lose game 5 and now what happens game 6 and you're at the game 7. I think for someone like Brunson, especially with how measured he was, saying the equivalent of job's not finished in the post-game presser, like we haven't done anything. That is an important factor. That is something they're going to keep in mind. The Knicks have beaten the Cavs every single game at MSG this year. So
that's a great call.
Until that happens where they win, I'm going to feel pretty good about the Knicks winning one of the next two. You just don't want to be in a situation where you have to get. I'd rather not see a game 6. I think we'd all rather have the games be wrapped in 5, especially for one Julius Randle, who's a little bit banged up. Is Quentin Grimes going to be playing? How healthy might he be? The best case scenario would be the Knicks close this out quickly, cleanly as possible, and then they prepare for whoever they're facing next. But I'm not at the point where it's just, okay, well, if you lose game 5, then you're at game 6. And if you lose game 6, it's game 7.
No, that's the unhealthy place to get to.
Listen, but again, this is coming from someone who did pick Cavs and 7. So I get it. But the circumstances had changed because I thought it was going to be closer to 2-2. And it's not. It's 3-1 Knicks. And I think that is a massive factor. And I got to tell you, I'm really glad that the Knicks just have to win one of the next 3. So hopefully they can just do one of the next 1 and we can all move on.
We mentioned the math for anybody who hasn't heard it yet. Teams up 3-1 in the playoffs in NBA history, 258-13, which works out to slightly better than 95%. Someone DM'd me earlier today, and I have it to check, and they were like, can you go through all of the teams that have blown 3-1 leads and talk about like possible similarities to this Knicks team? And I wrote back, I'm like, if you think for a millisecond that I'm going to put that energy out in the world, all we need to know here in New York is there was one instance, a very famous one that we know about all too well. Andrew, especially because that was when he started watching. That was one of his formative experiences. But may he rest in peace. David Stern is not here to inflict chicanery anymore. So we don't need to talk anymore about 1997.
One thing I will say about 1997, there was a certain person who worked for the Knicks in some capacity in 1997, who I think learned a thing or two from what happens when you're down 3-1. He happens to be the head coach of the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau. So, look, am I happy the Knicks went through that experience? As a fan, no. As someone who didn't even live it, I feel terrible for the people who did live it, like Andrew, for example. But if that was a learning experience to help the Knicks be better moving forward and to better prepare them, and obviously it took a suspension and a controversy to get the Knicks to the point of vulnerability to lose that series. I'm not going to say it was worth it, because it certainly wasn't worth it, but it's nice to have that experience in your back pocket.
Speaking of Tom Thibodeau knowing a thing or two, in 2013, Andrew, double check that for me. But I just saw what Andrew put in the chat. I'm not reading that.
Nope.
Andrew is not a fan of David Stern. That's what he said. I am not a fan of David Stern. That's all he wrote in the chat.
Verbatim.
In 2013, Tom Thibodeau was the coach of the Chicago Bulls when they went up 3-1 as underdogs, we should note. Well, actually, as the Knicks are underdogs too. May have even been as a 5 seed against the 4 seed. Brooklyn Nets, and they were up 3-1, and then they lost 2 straight, and then they won a Game 7 against Brooklyn. That was it was a much bigger deal because the Bulls were like injured and whatnot, and the Nets had just had their offseason where they went out and traded everything for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, and so the story was much more about how the Nets couldn't pull out the first round series as opposed to like the Bulls almost blew a 3-1 lead. But like, so he has that experience too under his belt. We'll just leave it at that. You mentioned Donovan Mitchell already. Let's just read his numbers off. He's averaging, man, this looks like fake numbers. In games 3 and 4 in the Garden, where if you would have told me he would have averaged 46 points over these 2 games, I would have been like, man, that's a lot. It's also Donovan Mitchell. He averaged 16.5 points on 37.8% overall shooting, 16.7% from 3, and 60% from the line. That's over games 3 and 4 for Donovan Mitchell. Does this series say anything to you about Donovan Mitchell? You laugh. That was a mischievous laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to speak before.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
I'd like the series to conclude in some way before I comment more on that. So
That's fine.
I will shelve that mischievous look and the thoughts behind it for another week, or maybe not. Hopefully I get to share them, because if I don't, then something bad will have gone wrong, or something will have gone wrong. But listen, if you're Cleveland, you gave up a lot. I mean, a lot to get Donovan Mitchell in the door, to win with him right away. Even if you're working at the kinks in year one, that was a huge package to give up. Even if Lauri Markkanen was not, they're announcing most improved player of the award, year of the award today. I would imagine he'll win it. Even if he doesn't, he's a top 3 finalist. Even so, even if he wasn't that person in Cleveland, and you give up 3 unprotected first round picks, you need Donovan Mitchell to be that guy that you paid the price for.
Yes.
Through 4 games. Well, I should say, game 1, he was pretty good.
Yeah, I was about to say. And game 2, he did what needed to be done.
Yeah. Game 3, and especially game 4, right? Players have bad games all the time. It happens. Bad series. It doesn't necessarily have to be reflective. When you give up a pound of flesh, you need him to bring it. You need him to be better than what he has been. And that's just the trouble with it right now. Their best player is not playing like their best player when they need him most. And that's we'll see if that happens in game 5. Hopefully there's not a game 6 or 7 for us to comment on.
Yeah.
We can dive in deeper, but they need more from him no matter what, if they want to see another day after this series.
Well said. Good. Nicely done there. I didn't even think about that. I was leading you into a death trap. No, I mean, I'll just come out and say the thing out loud, which is like, Donovan Mitchell's good enough that he could go off, and he's a good enough. I don't say this about probably more than 10 or 12 guys in the league, but there are a certain number of guys who could go out and win a game almost by themselves. I don't think anyone could truly win a game totally by themselves. And this Cavs team, and I think this is the main takeaway from what we've seen through 4 games, and why, almost regardless of what happens in the rest of this series, whether it ends in 5, 6, or 7 games, and regardless of the outcome, I think there are real structural questions about this Cavalier team, which brings me back to what I was saying, which is why I don't think Donovan Mitchell can go out and by himself, bring the Cavs back in the series. Because I think, again, it's revealed some issues with this Cavs team, which we will leave for the folks on the Chase Down pod to talk about. But he is good enough that if things go well around him, or well enough around him, he has that sort of talent. So I too don't want to speak on it quite yet, but yeah, thus far. Speaking of which, this is a good way to hit this last one before we get to the injury report. This has been as we get some news on Giannis. Giannis will be back for tonight's game against the Heat. Or so you're listening to this, so you already know that. But we are just finding that out now. Okay, well, let's see what the Bucks do. And we'll just leave it at that for now. This has been a defensive series. John Burgundy strikes again. What did I do, Andrew? I said the thing. Giannis is coming back for the game.
Yes, you read something that was on the screen.
I didn't say the thing out loud?
Again, the John Burgundy thing implies that ooh, I saw thing to read, I read thing, rather than just read it in your head and ignored it while you're doing
but I'm not going to ignore it because it's relevant.
Right.
Although it won't be relevant
that will be listening tomorrow and have already watched the game.
Edit all this out. I don't care. So it has been a defensive series. The Cavs were held under 80 points in game 3, as you mentioned, first team to have that happen to them all year. These two teams have, or the Cavs, the Knicks have the best defensive rating in the playoffs, which by definition means the Cavs have the worst offensive rating in the playoffs. On the Knicks end of it, the Knicks are the worst shooting team in the playoffs, have made fewer threes per game than any team in the playoffs, and they are shooting a worse percentage from 3 than any team in the playoffs. So this has been the rock fight of rock fights. Do you think that bodes well for not a big comeback by Cleveland? And I'm thinking of something in particular when I asked this, which was 2 years, or How many years ago was the bubble? 3 years ago? 3 years ago in the bubble. Denver famously pulled off not one, but two big time comebacks, coming back from 3-1 down against the Donovan Mitchell's Utah Jazz and the Clippers. And while those series were slightly different in tenor, the Clippers, my God, did they throw up all over themselves at the end of that series. But the Jazz series with the Nuggets, that was like, I don't know what the actual scores were for all those games, but that was like the most offensively, like that was all offense. There was no defense being played in that series. This is the opposite of that. So I was thinking about that, and I feel like a defensive struggle, does it bode better for the team that is up 3-1? I feel like it does, although I can't quite totally justify that to myself.
I'm conflicted because on one hand, it's just look at the numbers. They should tell you everything. And the other hand, it's like, well, it's been a sample size of 4 games. And everything goes out the window. It just takes a few shots to go in that changes the complexity of everything. So that's a really dressed up way of saying I honestly don't know. But I can tell you that the atmospheres being different, again, if it goes to 6 games, I can tell you that the Garden's going to be even louder than it was for Game 4.
I agree.
It's going to be a very hostile environment, and not in a way that's threatening to the Cavs personally, but professionally speaking, they will be shooketh, or they should be. I won't say will, because that would imply, they should be, right? Based on what I saw, games 3 and 4, game 6 should lead to a similar outcome for the fans' perspective. So that's how I'm couching it. That will make me feel better about not jinxing it or speaking anything ill into existence. But that's where I feel, look, it just takes a few things to click in the right way, right? Like, yes, game 2 was ugly from the Knicks' perspective. They've also now have 2 games under their belts in Cleveland, and they are up 3-1. So how confident are they feeling? How healthy are they feeling? All these different factors. So, but I mean, mentioning the offense versus the defense, it's a complete light switch. If you had told me going into this series that the Knicks offense would look pretty good, but might have some trouble in the playoffs because of the efficiency, I would have said, yeah, that makes some sense. I wouldn't have thought it would be reduced to what it is, right? I wouldn't have thought that of the 20 teams to make the play into the playoffs, that they would have, oh my goodness, what is this?
What?
The 19th best efficiency. Also, we talked about going into this series about the importance of protecting the ball in the possession battle. And that's where the Cavs have really squandered it, because the Knicks and the Cavs have both been really good at taking care of the ball this year.
Yep.
The Knicks have been the worst team out of the 20 to make the play into the playoffs in terms of turnover percentage. So
I thought the Cavs were worse.
No, the Knicks have the 20th percentage for offensive turnover.
You know what? You're looking at cleaning the glass?
I am.
I was looking at the NBA stats page, which doesn't filter out garbage time. So Cleveland is actually the worst on that. But the point is, both of these teams have turned over a shit ton. The reason why that's interesting is because the Cavs, at the very least, were a team that did turn you over during the regular season. The Knicks, famously, because Thibodeau's defenses never turn you over, did not do that. And the fact that they're even in this, even though both are very bad, I think that's a good sign for the Knicks.
Exactly. So, I wouldn't have thought that the Knicks would have the number 1 defense in cleaning the glass. It's come together beautifully. I mean, 4th best in in protecting efficiency on the defensive end, 2nd best in terms of turnover percentage, forcing turnovers, 10th best defensive rebounding, and 5th best at free throw rate. So
they're doing a lot of things.
Yeah, it's really just get back to what worked for you in the regular season offensively, if you can. Get more action with these players and whatnot. So trying to figure it out. But what's working now, hopefully it can continue for at least one more game and move on.
Yeah, and that's a good transition to injury report. So Quentin Grimes' shoulder contusion was seen with a sling on watching the game in Game 4. He missed Game 4 after leaving at halftime of, or just before halftime, I guess, of Game 3. His status is up in the air. We haven't got any new updates on that. And look, they just showed that they could win a game without Quentin Grimes. So I feel confident that they could do it. Quentin Grimes also has as many 3-pointers, or has one more 3-pointer than you and me combined in this series. So it's not like they're going to miss his shooting terribly. And even without him, and I'm not getting ahead of myself because we'll do game ball in like a minute, but the Knicks have a baseline unlike the Cavs, who had like, it's very clear the Cavs have top, and then under that it's like a mess. The Knicks have this nice baseline where you're getting 48 minutes of elite production at the center position. You're getting elite scoring now that RJ Barrett has come alive, and again, we'll talk more about RJ in a minute. And Jalen Brunson's doing Jalen Brunson things. We'll talk more about him in a minute. And then around those two, and between the centers, between Josh Hart, and even though Manuel quickly hasn't shot it well, he's playing at an elite level. For anybody who hasn't seen the defensive rating numbers with him on the court, they're giving up like 80 points per 100 possessions when quickly plays. It's obscene. And then Obi has played well for the most part. The one guy who is kind of a question mark at this point is the other guy on our injury report, and that is Julius Randle. Tibbs said after what was a very bad game 4, and especially bad third quarter in game 4, that a lot of guys wouldn't be playing right now, and specifically referring to the ankle injury that knocked Julius out for the last 5 games of the season. If I have a worry at the moment, it is Randle related, and it is very specific because I went back and I rewatched I rewatched most of the game, but I keyed in on the third quarter, and the Cavs scored on 11 of the first 13 possessions of that third quarter. You know, because you were there, and man,
Jared Allen's still open, by the way.
Yeah, you said it. They. Whether it was Julius guarding the low man and they brought Mitch into the action, knowing that Julius wasn't going to rotate down low, or just bringing Julius into the action with Mobley, knowing that Julius was not up to that level of defensive coverage and they would have to pull Mitch out. And they knew between Brunson and Randle, and we have Garland, we're getting what we want on every play. And they did almost for every play. And then they had to start going to their subs. And by the time they got back with their starters in, Randle was not in the game anymore because Tom Thibodeau didn't put him back in. So that worries me a little bit. And I'll just leave it at that.
It's a fair worry. You know, I mean, where I struggle with Randle is I can understand the arguments coming from both sides of it. Where I kind of lean more towards is the Knicks seem to be going out of their way to talk about, like Tibbs, when he's saying,
yep,
most guys wouldn't be playing, where he has rushed it back. And the reason he's rushed it back is because if you take Randle out of the equation, you really have one player who is above 6'8" and not a center, and so it'd be Toppin.
Above how tall is RJ? RJ 6'7"?
6'6". I think he's listed
6'6". So you only have one player above 6'6" who's not a center.
Right. And Josh Hart plays larger than he is, but he's also 6'4". So you need some sort of size, especially combating the team like the Cavs that they're 4'5", it's pretty large. So I applaud him for doing that and for going out of his way. The tricky part for me is, we talk often about guys who are 82 game players and guys who are 16 game players.
Right.
And it's Julius Randle has shown he's an 82 game player. He has not shown he's a 16 game player. That does not mean he is not a 16 game player. It just means that in the 2 times he has been in the playoffs, the first time, disaster, did not have a point guard, now has a point guard, back in the action, he's unhealthy. So it's, while I hear concerns about, excuses and this and that, it's, well, yes, but they're also valid. It's context. It's context for all of this. We can't just rule it out and say, no, he's got to contribute. He does have to contribute, but if he's hobbled, then he should be playing. Well, he shouldn't be playing. Well, okay, so what is the solution then again against a team that has larger players? Cedi Osman he's still a larger guy. Maybe not one of their best, but he has a presence there, and it's something that the Knicks might not be able to combat as easily.
The fact is, if Julius Randle's level of play is what we saw in game 4, I don't know how else to say. He's not and with, by the way, and RJ is a big part of this, because with RJ now taking on that secondary scorer role, now that's a lot to ask for Brunson and RJ to basically carry the offense for 48 minutes, either together or one at a time. Like, that's a lot to ask. So, like, even as I say Julius Randle's not helping them if he's going to play like this, I don't really believe that, because I do think they need that gravity. I mean, and by the way, in that third quarter, in addition to that big block he had on Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle had a couple of big baskets. He had a couple of bad misses too, but he had a couple of big baskets. So, like, even this version of him, like, you could look at it and be like, that's a scary thought to not have him. I don't want to go down that road anymore. I wanted to voice that concern and leave it at that.
Well, game 3, I thought it was great. It was good process, bad results. And then game 4, it was just bad process, bad results. And now we're here.
Yep. No, we hear. Okay. We're going to do a game ball and detention before we get to a very special announcement. Game ball first. I'm going to read the list of candidates that Andrew has so kindly provided for me here in no particular order. Well, in the order he put it in, actually. Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin, Deuce McBride, Isaiah Hartenstein, Tom Thibodeau, and Leon Rose. He has someone listed in detention that I think should be in game ball, but that's fine. You still go, right? You get to go in like perpetuity. Okay. Yeah.
Well, at least until next year. So I'm gonna leave you with the obvious one. Not that you haven't spent enough time talking about the obvious one, but I want to go out of my way to shout someone else out, which is I'm going to give my game ball to Tom Thibodeau.
Hey,
yeah, there you go. Wow. I feel he's coached a fantastic series. I thought that the Cavs adjusted really nicely in game 2 and the Knicks were a bit lost. But then you get to game 3 and Tibbs, like a chess move, he's got the next move down pat. And game 4, you'd think, okay, that's where Bickerstaff then comes into play. And Tibbs rolls out this, Fred Katz wrote about it and totally accurate. The little wrinkles of Brunson pick and roll with instead of bigs, but Josh Hart
guards
or RJ Barrett. And just these little things that he's able to deploy. I thought again, if you had told me after seeing 76 games of Randall at 77, however many he played, that when the game's on the line, he trusts 2 guys, he trusts Jalen Brunson, he trusts Julius Randle. And so for him to see Julius not having it and recognizing this is too important, this is larger than all of us, and Randall not subbing in for the fourth quarter, and Obi doing a fantastic job of filling in. And it just goes to show that Tibbs didn't force it. He knew it wasn't working. He knows how important each possession in a playoff game can be and how quickly things can go awry. And I just thought he did a masterful job. And again, if it weren't for Tibbs, I would be praising RJ. In fact, I think it sucks that I have to pick between one or the other. I view it as 1A, 1B. But yeah, but I feel as though I've given RJ more praise than Tibbs, and I want to give RJ the praise. But I also know that if you give Tibbs the praise, then it would just be like, of course, John's giving Tibbs the praise. So I almost want to do it. I'm doing it for you, so that way it doesn't feel like, look at John. He just like, it doesn't even matter. RJ Barrett's great, and he's picking Tom Thibodeau. So you can return the favor if you'd like.
Jeremy, you threw me for a loop. I thought one of us was going to be talking about RJ Barrett, and the other one was going to be talking about Jalen Brunson.
I have sung Jalen Brunson's praises so much this year, and it's still deserved, right? It's still, but I felt that Tibbs deserved it this week.
I will agree everything you said on Tibbs. I hope we keep it up for the rest of the series, however long it may be, and moving forward, ideally in the playoffs. Yes, the game ball should go to RJ Barrett. I mean, what do I even have left to say that I haven't said already over the last few days? If you are someone who has always believed in this player, this was probably the greatest weekend of your life. And if you're someone like me who has lived in like borderline fear over the years since he's been drafted, that like, oh my God, is this not the prince that we were promised? It's the happiest weekend of my life because I could finally rest easy that everybody else was right and I was wrong. And this is a guy. He's a real guy. And what he did over this weekend's games, I know it's only 2 games. I wrote it this morning in the newsletter. It is more important. These 2 games are more important than the 271 games he's played in the regular season before this, as far as I'm concerned. Not that they don't add context, but that's my 2 cents.
As a fan, yes, these 2 measure up in a larger way than the others, the 271 before. Yeah. I think what impresses me the most is, for 4 years, RJ has been a pretty mediocre passer out of drives, and he's doing that at a very high level, which is exactly what the Knicks have been trying to get him and other Knicks to do. And other Knicks are good, not elite at it, and RJ has been really upping it. And the funny thing about RJ as well is the shots haven't been falling from the perimeter, which is still an issue. But how many other guys you mentioned the Knicks are shooting so poorly, right? So I'm not going to single him out. And the playmaking's been fantastic. The defensive effort, hockey assists that certainly don't show up as easily. Like he's been his fingerprints are all over it. The main thing that the main reason why everything seems so good is this series. RJ Barrett is finishing at the rim, according to Cleaning the Glass, 68% of the time. So 68%, that would be good for 53rd percentile among wings. For context, if you're unaware of what the percentiles are that RJ has finished in at the rim, rookie year, by heart. 19th percentile. Next year, the 24th percentile. In the playoffs of that year, 25th percentile. Obviously, a small sample size, 13 of 23. The following year, the 2021-22 season, 15th percentile. And then this year, 24th percentile at 59%. 59% was his high, finishing at the rim, and it was still only in the 24th percentile. So it just goes to show how even when the shot doesn't open up outside, the other thing is on the weak side, he's hitting the above the break is back. He was kind of struggling a bit there this season. So it's nice to, again, small sample size, incredibly small sample size, but they have to respect him there. But the ability for them also, even if they go under on drives, he's finishing at what compared to RJ of the past is an elite level. And in general, it's a very good level. But if he can keep up with that, still needs to work on those things, but that shouldn't take away from how good he can be if he finishes at the rim and how important that is for the Knicks and for RJ Barrett himself.
He's been depending on your feelings about Mitchell Robinson, who also deserves a tip of the cap here. RJ's been the second best player on a team that is up 3-1 in the playoffs. And he's doing it in a high usage role, and he's doing it efficiently and doing everything that's being asked of him and not overextending himself in a way that is negative. So all great things, which leads us to detention. We only have 5 candidates: Julius Randle, Emmanuel Quickley, which I'm offended that Emmanuel Quickley is in this. Emmanuel Quickley's defense has been spectacular. I don't think he should be listed here, but it's fine. It's Andrew's list.
We're watching Andrew. Unbelievable.
Casual. Scott Foster, and then finally the haters and the non-believers. I'm going to pick from one of the last two because I'm not about to get on Julius Randle for going out there and playing hurt.
There's one more thing we can do, though.
What?
We can do 2 game balls. They are in the instructions. Now, in the spirit of the Knicks did lose a game since we last talked.
Yeah.
I'm doing a detention. I feel weird not doing one, but
I'm going to do detention.
Fair enough.
I want to do detention for the non-believers. So again, I've done this before. I will do it again. I'm putting myself in detention. Fans should support their players. And at the very least, if they don't think in their heart of hearts that a particular player is ever going to be what many other people think that they are, there's ways to go about that tactfully. And as someone who is in front of a microphone a lot, I struggle with that balance oftentimes. But I am absolutely deserving of being put in detention this week after all of the quite outward negativity I've had towards RJ, because I really just have not been a believer. And I was dead wrong because he has converted me. And I am genuinely excited. Can't remember the last time I thought this. I'm genuinely excited to see what he does moving forward, not only in the series, these playoffs, in his career. Something else I never thought I'd say, I hope it's as a Knick. There you go. So I'm in detention for that.
Well, in fairness, even with the skepticism that was had, we both went into the series, and who did we pick as our X factor?
I picked RJ.
I picked RJ as well.
There you go.
So it just goes to show that dreams can come true, miracles can happen, and I'm very happy that he's able to show his way. I am going to pick, I guess, the haters right?
Yeah, pick the haters. Screw the haters.
I'll pick the haters, but it'll also kind of be complimenting. It's almost gonna be like giving game ball to the people that they were hating on. I don't know. It's just like when you look back, when you're in the thick of it, everything gets clumpy in the weeds, and all these different deadlines or draft days, free agency, like areas that would be very high stress from a transactional standpoint, they often feel super stressful. And when they don't go the way of how we may want them, we revolt in some manner. And it just goes to show that, like, for all of the missteps that the front office has taken, the good things overwhelmingly capture, right? Like it captures primarily the good. And we can talk about the bad, because there has been bad. Every front office is going to have wins and losses.
Nobody has
the Warriors.
A perfect track record.
The Warriors drafted James Wiseman, and now he's gone. And they burned a second overall pick in thinner. So it happens to the best of us. It's really more just how you can find a way to take the best parts. We can talk about all these different players and how good they are. And that's true. We can talk about the coaches, how good they are. And it all starts at the top. And James Dolan found a great person, Leon Rose, who hired great people, who then drafted, signed, and traded for great individuals who are really talented, who are great with the analytics, everything top notch. So it's easy to be skeptical when there are years of feeling battered and distressed and seeing all of the transactions that go awry. But you can ease up, haters, because I'll tell you, when I look at these two teams, I see one of them that traded a lot for one player who now has to win 3 games in a row to get back to a point, and they have very few assets and ways to get out of an exit strategy. And I see the other team that didn't trade for that player, that has all of these assets at its disposal, that's young, that's hungry, that's motivated, and they're just getting started.
I love it. The haters could go eat it. Okay. We're almost done. We only have one announcement. It is an important one. So if you have been a part of the KFS post games over the last couple of years, you know the name Robert Cross. So Robert Cross, this may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I had to throw that in there. But he is, and I say this as just completely and totally with all of my heart, because I mean it. Part of the KFS family, as we have kind of grown, and as post games and pods and Twitter spaces and like our online imprint, like all of these different things have evolved to the fact that this is now, Knicks Film School is a living, breathing organism. Everybody who contributes to it, like it all makes it what it is. It all makes it special for us, special for those of you listening out there. And Robert Cross is a big part of that. And the reason I'm bringing up Robert Cross is because as you were listening to this, Robert Cross turns 50 years old today. So we thought, because this is episode 600, and unfortunately, we were not able to land. I don't know. Who would we have wanted to land?
Pat Riley, but sure. He's too busy watching his mediocre basketball team.
There you go. We could land Pat Riley. So we got someone else who's old and wrinkly, and that is Robert Cross. Hello, Robert. How are you, sir? Try unmuting yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Robert. I muted you when you done. Or added to the stage. Robert, how are you?
Okay.
Yeah, it's my fault.
I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
So you're 50 or almost 50. You're going to be 50 as we are talking. Wait, it's a time zone difference, so I have to account for that. So what, about like 8 hours, something like that?
I think I was born early in the morning and about half a day, sometime early tomorrow morning.
So you were born, correct me if I'm wrong, the year the Knicks last won the NBA championship.
Yes. 73.
Okay. So your memory of that is probably not great.
Negligible
because you were 2 weeks old when they won that championship. I believe they won that on May May 10th. But you are a massive Knicks fan nonetheless, despite the fact that they've never won a blessed thing in any of our lifetimes. But you, again, go back the longest. How you feeling about these Knicks, Robert? How's it going for you right now?
Well, I'm most definitely not a hater.
No.
Pretty excited about where we are. GMAC, do I get a game ball?
Yes, Robert Cross gets a game ball.
Oh boy,
because of the. Oh, you want to give out a game ball? You're saying, yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah,
I want to give out a game ball. So, does anyone know who Thornton Mellon is?
Thornton Mellon?
No,
can't say I do.
That's Rodney Dangerfield's character in Back to School.
Oh, Back to School.
Oh my god. Was that a former Knick?
So I want to give a game ball out to myself for believing in this team, and so we'll get Andrew laughing hysterical.
We got a Back to School reference on the ball.
That's great, though. I haven't seen that
It's
movie in a while. I have to go rewatch
I
it.
love that movie.
It's a very good movie.
Man.
No, I do deserve some credit. I'll give it to Brunson.
Thank you. I'm glad Brunson gets a game ball.
And the reason I will give it to Brunson, and one of the members of the Casuals did some good work, XJ, just showing how efficient he's been. And being a longstanding Knicks fan and somebody who's done a little bit with basketball, our pain at the point guard position has been like an Achilles heel. So how I'm your Achilles heel when you know that you're going to come on and all these super chats are going to be sitting there.
You're more than my Achilles heel. There isn't a body part that you don't inflict pain upon, Robert.
That's right. I mean, I've been looking for the Knicks to have somebody solid at the position where, I mean, we had, I don't remember exactly how it all played out, but we had Strickland and Jackson, then we had neither of them.
Yes.
And we had like Doc Rivers and Harper and whatever. And they were good players on the backside of their career. And we had Marbury for a flash, but we finally have a point guard that can dictate the flow of a game and be impactful to the point that, I mean, you and I, we talk about the archetype, right? You need a superstar.
Yeah. We go back and forth about this a lot.
We go back and forth about that, and the wing, the archetype, and at least playoffs to date, Brunson's playing like a superstar. I mean, he's up there.
Kendrick Perkins, who we don't quote a lot on this podcast, but did go out today and say that he believes Jalen Brunson is performing as one of the best 5 players in the NBA playoffs. And I know Kendrick Perkins says a lot of silly things, but for him to say that, I thought was notable. I'll give myself this pat on the back, Robert. Me and you disagree about a lot of things, and you've been proven right about some things. I've been proven right about some things. But the one thing we were on the same page about when they signed Brunson, I told you from day one, I'm like, you're going to love this guy. Well, you already liked him a lot, but I said, you're going to love this guy. And he is much better, like immeasurably better than advertised. And so we both agreed on that.
Yeah, I think everybody agrees on that. I had a personal conflict with Brunson and Mr. Josh Hart for an obvious reason. So I have pretty deep basketball roots myself, and I happen to go to Seton Hall. And Villanova has been waxing Seton Hall quite a bit during the Jay Wright era. So those 2 players were not my favorite. Let's just say.
No shame in that. So last thing, Robert, you have become famous. Twitter famous? Social media? I don't know.
Famous.
Borderline infamous, yes.
Thank you, GMA.
Love you too, Robert.
It was infamous. So I'll say the thing. It was 53 wins. So I don't know when you first introduced the hashtag. I feel like it was before last season.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It did not, and you kept up the bit until it was mathematically impossible, and then you kept it up even after that. But I think it became mathematically impossible with like 20 some odd games to go. But you brought it back for round 2 this year, and beginning of December. 10 and 13, my Lord, you looked even more ridiculous this season than you did last season, which I didn't think was possible. And now we are sitting here. Yeah.
Any publicity is good publicity, John.
And now we are sitting here again. We do not celebrate. We do not count chickens before they are hatched, and we do not celebrate series before they are won here. At least I don't. Andrew breaks all the rules. Yes, he does. But
Robert, hold on. Robert Mensah taught me that. Celebrate the process, not just the destination.
Knicks in 5.
You can celebrate.
He literally just said Knicks in 5 to your face. There you go. Keep that energy, Robert. I love it.
Robert knows. Robert was the first person to ever call me a technocrat, which I very much appreciated, by the way. But we are on the verge. We are on the verge of perhaps, if you add up regular season wins and playoff victories, 53 wins actually being a thing that it could happen. Yep. And so the fact that, again, the calendar is almost May, and this is still a thing, you deserve all the kudos in the world. So I just want to give you that publicly on your birthday as my birthday present to you.
I appreciate it. It's probably the best gift I'll get tomorrow in all likelihood.
I really hope that's not the best gift.
Well, my new partner's like, are the guys on again? Why are they still talking 2 or 3 hours after the game?
It's because Robert Cross keeps sending us super chats.
Exactly, because Robert Cross doesn't know when to stop super chatting. All right, as my youngest walks in her, what are those, Christmas pajamas? Yeah. So we have to get out of here. Jeremy, Andrew, anything you guys want to say to Robert before we go?
Jeremy, you first.
Hi, Robert. First time.
How's it going, Cutlets?
Doing
His name's
great.
Cutlets, by the way.
It's true. Which I know it's from the chicken cutlet sandwiches, but I still don't actually know the origin of where cutlets
and
came
because
from.
There was supposed to be a Cutlets t-shirt.
Yes.
And I was told that you were in charge of it. And of course, because it wasn't data related, you failed.
Yep, it's true.
I prefer Captain Kickball as a funnier nickname.
They're both great. They're both great.
Works too. Yes.
Yep. But no, I will say happy birthday, Robert. For you, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Obviously, I communicate with you offline about Knicks, KFS, business stuff, everything. You've been fantastic and incredibly kind with your time and your finances. You're putting one of John's kids through college. Maybe the second one goes there too. So no, you just mean a lot, and we love you. Thank you so much. Glad we could make this happen. And yeah, very happy 50th birthday to you.
I appreciate that and glad that it wasn't about some kind of statistics. GMAC, you're up. What do you got?
Oh, I'm up. How do I follow that? Robert, happy birthday, my friend. Thank you for the way you've supported us, not just with your checkbook, but with your wit and your humor. I am GMAC because you started calling me that and it stuck.
Oh my God, that's right.
That is a thing that happened.
I forgot that's where it started.
Yeah, man, you've just been really cool to get to know. And it's cool that this community continues to grow and introduce me to people like you that I never would have met have Knicks Film School. And honestly, the Knicks not been good. So it's awesome that, you know, we could celebrate episode 600 with the most special of guests, and it's with you, my friend. So happy birthday. And here's the hashtag 53 more.
Oh, wow. I see what you did there.
Look at that. I'd be a fossil at that point. I appreciate the opportunity to come on. And also I'm glad that I'm ranked above Kevin Danishevsky. By the way, Kevin, your apology to RJ Barrett's not loud enough. If I don't get something louder in Twitter, you are banned for the Patreon next month.
No, Kevin's going to come out with his top 100 ways to apologize to RJ Barrett, and he's going to put it in a upcoming playback near you.
Knicks in 5. Let's go, Menza.
Giddy up to that. Robert, seriously, you're the man. Appreciate all your generosity and your, most of all, more than your generosity, I appreciate your passion for this team because unless you are the best actor in the world, you cannot fake what you do in terms of how much you love this team and how much you think about them. And I know because you are in my DMs literally all day, every day. And you're a good fan and you're a good dude. So happy 50th. Appreciate you. And let's hope we get this thing done in 5. So your prediction and Mensch's prediction can come true. And the rest of us look like idiots, right?
Yep, we'll beat the Heat in Eastern Conference Finals. We are.
There you go. That's the dark horse, right?
Do you have a preference of Philly or Boston that you want to beat in the conference finals, Robert?
We'll beat either one of them. And then if we match up with the Lakers.
Which one do you want more? The Celtics to lose or the Sixers to lose to the Knicks?
That's a good point.
I have to put an end to this.
This is everything about that.
I actually want to play the Sixers. And this is why I want to play the Sixers, because I know John technically, well, he's married, obviously, but he has this little side thing going on with Joel Embiid. Anyone that's been paying attention to this pod the past couple of years know that he's writing articles, thinking of future articles. And it's somewhat disconcerting to me because I don't know if you know, my favorite Knick happens to be Mitchell Relax Robinson, right?
I do know that.
The man that's controlling the paint and is outplaying his all-star counterpart, Jared Allen.
You're going to hear a take from tomorrow's guest on the pod about Mitchell Robinson. Stay tuned for that. Anyway.
Who is that? Fred Dean Wade Katz? Yeah. Is that who it is? Because I don't need to listen to that garbage.
There you go.
You can skip that episode. It's okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
So
you want to be Philly? Oh wow.
I want to beat Philly, and we're gonna win it at home in Game 6 on a Mitchell Robinson tip-in when Embiid falls on the floor like that. It's only because I don't know if you've been seeing this clip going around where he spends more time rolling around on the ground than playing basketball.
Mm-hmm. Like a turtle on his back in the sun. Exactly.
Okay. Be careful what you wish for.
John, we could then be in the finals against the Lakers. LeBron and AD.
There's a lot of things that could happen.
I was telling them before the pod, Robert, what a perfect way as a tribute to the captain. You beat the Lakers 50 years after the 73 team did it.
We would beat the Lakers 50. Right. So there's a lot of synergy between my 50th birthday, 1973, this year, and you would have AD and a cane. He's not going to be able to stop Mitchell Robinson either because they'll probably be complaining about his shoulder.
This is the worst karma.
And he fell over or whatever. Just understand that 53 wins is not a number. It's an aspiration. It's an ideal to bring the title back to the Mecca. Let's go.
Let's go. Hashtag 63 wins, which is what it would take to win a title this year.
Okay.
Andrew, just for you, starting on tomorrow's post game, we're going to do 63.
No, because you're going to jinx it. All right. That's it. Robert, happy birthday. Go back to doing whatever it is you do. Andrew, Jeremy, thank you so much as always. And everybody out there who continues to support this podcast and our endeavors here at Knicks Film School, we thank you. We appreciate you. Let's try to get this thing done. I would love nothing more for Knicks in 5 to become a thing. So until next time, we'll talk to you soon, and peace out.